My name is Ryan Nurse, and I am a traumatic brain injury survivor and thriver who has also suffered from and overcome depression. So whilst in a coma on a life support machine, specialists wanted to switch it off as there was zero brain activity, and my life was totally in somebody else's control. But I have noticed that many people who are alive and well have unconsciously pulled the plug on their own. So I have recently quit my one and only unfulfilled day job of over 13 years to follow my purpose, mission and vision, which is to use the knowledge that I have gained from facing and overcoming the adversities in my life to inspire others to become the very best versions of themselves, to have positive impact on over 1 billion lives, and to be the beacon of light that the world wakes up to.
Welcome, everyone. This is Austin with Flashpoint. Your turnaround story starts here. This is a special Thursday edition of Flashpoint, and I want to welcome you in. I trust you'll have the time to grab something from this very special interview. As always, we highlight the hourglass in Flashpoint because we want to remind ourselves that the past is done. The future's unwritten. We can only live right here in the moment. So as you're clicking on this, settle in, take a breath. Settle in for this very special episode. I had the good fortune of meeting this gentleman you saw in the beginning, Ryan Nurse, through one of our special members of our community, Michelle. Michelle connected me with Ryan. I learned about his story, and immediately I was just, wow. Every once in a while, you come across a story that touches your heart and moves you deeply. Shortly after, Ryan and I had a conversation, and here we are today. I'm in the short time that I've known Ryan, he's just an incredible soul. You know, there's people that you meet that you can just feel the depth of the individual. It's not superficial words. Like it's somebody who comes from down deep, and that's what you're going to get today. So in order to cut through this, I'm going to ask you to help me welcome my new friend. Ryan. We had a connection issue, so stay with me. I'm going to keep it rolling. So Ryan is somebody who lives in, ready for this? Mandy, are you ready? Buckinghamshire, UK. Are you familiar with that? Conchetta, welcome. Oh my goodness. Speaking of the UK, we have someone else from the UK here. Now, you're going to need to bear with me because we had some connection stuff. So let me check. Ryan is definitely with us, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a second. Let me say hello to you. Mandy, thanks for sharing this. Let me give a shout out to Michelle for making this interview happen. But I am prepared, as always. We will persist until we succeed. So I'm going to give it a moment to let Ryan come back in. But let me do this. I'm going to share that opening video with you again for those of you that maybe jumped in late so you can hear Ryan, see Ryan, and then we'll see if he shows up in the green room again. Technology is what it is. Mandy and Conchetta, I think you two are going to absolutely hit it off. Make sure you connect. All right, here we go. Let me go back. Let me share this video with you again.
My name is Ryan Nurse, and I am a traumatic brain injury survivor and thriver who has also suffered from and overcome depression. So whilst in a coma on a life support machine, specialists wanted to switch it off as there was zero brain activity, and my life was totally in somebody else's control. But I have noticed that many people who are alive and well have unconsciously pulled the plug on their own. So I have recently quit my one and only unfulfilled day job of over 13 years to follow my purpose, mission and vision, which is to use the knowledge that I have gained from facing and overcoming the adversities in my life to inspire others to become the very best versions of themselves, to have positive impact on over 1 billion lives, and to be the beacon of light that the world wakes up to.
Amazing. All right. We're going to give it a go. I need your love. Give me your hearts. Give me your support. And bear with us because the technology's jumping around. We may have to make some adjustments midstream, but we will persist. Ryan, you're here.
Austin,
How are you?
oh my God, thank you so much for having me. So, yeah, we just done a little test run a moment ago, and for whatever reason, my laptop just decided to give up. It didn't want to know today. So, yeah, we done a test run literally what 20, almost 30 minutes ago. All went well, and for whatever reason now, it's not letting me in the room. It's not showing my camera. It's not connecting to the mic. So it just goes to show that technology is so unpredictable, and you've got to be prepared to pivot as well.
Exactly. It's kind of like life, right? We did all the preparation, but here we are. You're here. Are you on your mobile now? You're on your
So
mobile
yeah, I'm
device?
on my mobile phone. I got it plugged
Perfect.
in. I got
Perfect.
charge. I got Wi-Fi. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we're all good to go.
Great. So I have about 30 minutes, and I want people to get your story. Ryan, are you willing to go back to the past and talk about this? I call it a gift, but it wasn't a gift at the time. Are you ready to go back and share this with
Yeah,
the audience?
of course, yeah.
All right, let's do it. So let's hear the story because it's incredible.
Yeah, no, thank you, Austin, for allowing me here to speak. So, guys, hi, my name is Ryan Nurse, and I am a traumatic brain injury survivor and thriver who has also suffered from and overcome depression. Coming up to 10 years ago now, I was attacked on the way home from a nightclub, and with no physical signs of trauma, I went home as usual. I went home to my parents, where I am now, went to bed. But sadly, my parents couldn't wake me up the next day, and I had to be rushed into hospital where I suffered from a fractured skull and a blood clot due to a bleed on the brain. My parents were mortified. This was the worst news that they could ever hear come out of somebody else's mouth. And my parents managed to get to see me that evening, and I was obviously in the intensive care unit on a life support machine. And then the specialists come round and they told my parents that I'd be very lucky to survive the night because the injuries that I sustained were so severe. And again, for any parent, that is like the worst news that they could ever hear about their child. But they all they could do is keep up hope at this point. So they did. They kept up hope and they went home obviously. And then they come back the next day. And thankfully, I was still alive, just being kept alive by the life support machine. And again, the specialist said that nothing had changed overnight, and it was a miracle that I was still being kept alive by this life support machine. So 3 days in, there was no signs of improvement at all, no progression at all, no progress. And on the third day was a very significant day where the specialist called up my parents that morning, called my loved ones, and said, "Look, we want to gather you in today because this is sort of a big news day." Like it was, yeah, very big news, as to say. So my parents obviously knew what was sort of happening and what was going to be said. So they all went up there, and in fairness, it was just my mum, dad, nan, and granddads, etc. Uh, Siblings got stayed at home, and when my parents had arrived, they were almost ushered into a sort of separate room on the side, a small little box room, and they went in there. And again, the specialist, the guy that done the operation on me, sat my parents down and my loved ones, sat them down and said, "Look, due to no, due because there's zero brain activity, to say because there's zero brain activity, they would suggest that my parents switch the life support machine off." And for any parent, this is the worst news that they could ever hear. Like your child is on a life support machine off, and now the specialists, the professionals are telling you to switch it off. And yeah, they literally suggest the machine was switched off due to zero brain activity. But my dad ultimately saved my life. What he done, he stood up, and my dad said, "No, the machine isn't getting turned off." And that ultimately did save my life
I
because
just want to grab this because I can only imagine the emotion. And if you could just imagine this, and these professionals are experts and they're advising your parents, there's no brain activity. And they're advising your parents to just, oh my God, let me let you finish, Ryan. I'm just moved by your
yeah.
story.
No, thank you, Austin. So yeah, as Austin, as you said, they are the professionals. They know what they're doing. They're skilled. They do this on a daily basis. They see this day in, day out. That's what they live by. That's what they've trained all their lives to be, professionals and specialists in this area. And they're telling my parents that we're going to switch the life support machine off because he's brain dead. There's no way he's going to come back from this. And again, for me, say I was a mechanic for over 13 years. When you want your car fixed, you go to a mechanic. When you want your radiator fixed, you go to a plumber. When you want the electrics fixed, you go to an electrician. So you always listen to the person that is specializing in that area, what you need help or you need work, you need something to work with, I guess. So for my parents, it would have been so easy to say, listen to the specialist. And the sad thing is that when my parents have been going up over the last few days, they met families, loved ones, parents, with, say, daughters, sisters, uncles.
Ryan, I want you to back up a moment. Your audio cut out. So I want to
Yes.
make sure everybody here, because I think with the ear pods, they're working good, but every once in a while it goes soft. So maybe just pause after, because I want everybody to hear your story.
Yeah, of course. So where did I get to, Austin, there?
You were talking about how when you want stuff fixed,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
go to
of
that
course.
said to the
Of course.
professional, and then you went back into your family, but I kind of lost you
Yeah.
there. So hopefully,
Okay, yeah. So basically, when you want, say, a job doing, you go to the specialist. This is with anything in life. You go and seek advice from a specialist, someone trained in that area. So the sad thing is, my parents would meet families, fathers, mothers with daughters, sisters, brothers, uncles, you name it. They've got loved ones in the same position as me, life support machine, wanting to switch the machine off. But sadly, for every single family that my parents met, they listened to the advice of the specialist and they pulled the plug on their loved ones. And the what happened then is inevitable. They died. Every single one of them that listened to the advice of that specialist died. And the sad thing is that this happens throughout the world on a daily basis. People listen to the advice of the specialist to switch the machines off of their loved ones because they wouldn't want them, say, living a life where they couldn't, say, function on their own. Like their life would be so hard. It would be awful. Like I can't remember what the word they say it is,
but
but
didn't you say to me that they told they told your parents that you were being a vegetable?
yeah. So I'll go on to that. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
the quality of life. That's what the word I was looking for. So the quality of life, keeping, say, me or any other person in that position alive, the quality of life wouldn't be there. So that's why they suggest. So they did listen to the specialists, and sadly, their loved ones didn't pull through. And for me, that's just makes me so grateful and so appreciative of life because, again, over the next few days now, they listened to my dad and they they said, okay, yeah, we're not going to switch it off straight away anyway. So over the next sort of 2, 3, 4 days, there was again minimal movements. There was nothing. They were just watching. My parents would go just to watch a screen bleep every day. They were talking to me. Nothing. I wasn't doing anything. Um, it got to the point where there was minimal movements. I may say twitch a hand or twitch a toe, but again, specialists told my parents that this was all just electrical impulses. Like, don't get your hopes up. He's never coming round. And again, because because there was zero brain activity still, like there was nothing there. Again, they said suggest to my parents once more, let's switch the life support machine off because he's never coming back from this. And if he would ever survive this, if he would be in a vegetative state for the rest of his life, and he would never walk or talk again. But my parents then kept hope. They said he will come through. He will pull through. So the very first time that they reduced the sedation to bring me out of the coma, I didn't. I wasn't breathing by myself. So I had to be put straight back into the coma because my lungs weren't functioning. And again, the specialist said, look, this isn't looking good. So then they waited. They went home, left it at night, come back the next day. Same again. And then again, the specialist said, this is literally fight or flight. He'll either make it through today or he'll never wake up. So they did. They reduced the sedation. But this time for me, thankfully, I started to breathe by myself. And again, I wasn't up and dancing and walking around. I was just breathing. My lungs were working. But I was still laying there, just motionless.
Amazing.
So parents just knew deep down. They said he will come round, and the specialists were like, "Look, it still might be bad news. Like if he ever wakes up still, like this doesn't mean he's alive and he's gonna wake up. It just means he's breathing on his own." So it was obviously a positive. So they held on to that. My parents held on to that, and then over that next week period, it was like the movements got more frequent. Like I would start twitching a hand, start twitching a toe. Um, it got to the point where my parents told me that they would ask me questions. Have you got a car? Have you got a motorbike? And I'd either shake or nod my head, only slightly, but I would make these minimal movements.
Wow. So while this is going on, and I know we have about maybe 20 minutes, I want to, because there was something else that was going on with you that you didn't realize till later. So you're starting to have these movements, and this is amazing. I didn't know this when we chatted, but so your parents were really engaged now because you started to breathe, and now there's movements, and now they're kind of interacting with you, and they're seeing these like slight movements that there's hope, right? After going from we're going to pull the plug or being advised to pull the plug, now you're breathing. So that must have been an incredible sign for them to just keep believing, like I say, God answered, and you are still, there's life there, there's hope.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe we all need hope to cope. And hope stands for have only positive expectations. And that's all my parents had at that point. They knew deep down, they could just see me, just even a slight twitch of the hand or a twitch of the toe. They knew I was there, I was with them. And they kept on to that hope. And it got to the point where maybe a couple of days later, my nan was there. And she's got quite a stern voice, and you never misbehave when you're at your grandparents' house. And she leant down close to my right side of my right eye. She went, "Ryan, open your eyes." And apparently I just laid there and I went, and my right eye just opened up. Not my left one, because my left one was busted. My right eye opened up and I just stared at my nan. And they were going, "He's alive." And they were screaming, they were shouting. They run to get the doctors, and the doctors were like, "No, that's just electrical impulses." And they just flattened all of that hope that they had and all the excitement. But again, my parents knew deep down that I was alive. And then it did start to progress to the point where I did obviously wake up. The very first time that I remember physically waking up and seeing myself, I was gifted an out of body experience prior to this. And I can talk to you a little bit about this. I got it with pinpoint clear. I can make a movie on this. That's how clear I saw this. Like this, say, dream, as to say, it was like I was there. It was incredible. Like this place where I was, I don't even know where it was, but I know deep down there's someone and something out there that knows more than any of us will ever know. So what happened? I'm in this out of body experience. I'm viewing myself through the eyes of something else. I say it's through the eyes of my creator. I don't know. I will never fully know. Maybe one day I might know. Who knows? So I'm viewing myself on this hospital bed, and I'm being pushed down this cobbled path. It's almost like a back alley, and it's quite downhill, and it's a cobbled street, and it's bumpy. It's very bumpy, and I'm watching, and I hear this noise just saying, "Don't drop him! Don't drop him! Don't drop him!" And there's these two ladies, and they're talking in this language. They're almost shouting at each other in this unknown language. It's not even a foreign language. It's a language that I've never even heard of before. It's just an unknown language. And I'm watching them, and all I kept hearing is, "Don't drop him, don't drop him, don't drop him." And then suddenly we made a left turn through these giant glass doors, and it's just like a reception area. And we go into this place, and there's just all people everywhere. And there's a lady at the reception, and they're all screaming in this foreign language, or unknown language even. And I'm just watching from a distance, I'm just watching it all go on. And this lady just starts pointing to the left, to the wall at the left, brick wall. She's just pointing and talking in this language. And I'm just thinking, what are they going to do? Like, what are they going to do with me? And then these two ladies, they start speeding up and start pushing me towards this wall at full speed. And it's getting faster and faster and faster. And I'm just watching from a distance. And I'm watching them full speed. Like, this is like light speed almost. And they're just heading towards this brick wall. And then suddenly, the gurney makes impact with the wall. And then it just opens up like a cat flap. And I just go flying through. But as I go flying through, me watching from a distance, I go back into my own mind, and I'm just there, and I'm just falling in just nothing, just dark, just black, and I'm just falling. I have this sensation around my whole body, this falling sensation, and there's just nothing there, and I'm just watching through my own eyes. And as I'm falling, I'm just falling fast. It just feels like I'm falling fast, and there's no walls to this place. It's just space. And then as I'm looking around, I see this small outline of a bright white square in the distance, and it could be miles away. I don't know how far away it is, but I'm almost falling and falling. And as time went on, again, I can't tell you how much time was there. It was just forever. But as I'm falling towards this bright white glistening square, this outline, I'm getting closer and closer, and it's getting brighter and brighter. And the closer I get, the brighter it gets. And it gets so bright, I get so close, and it gets so bright, I close my eyes. And as I close my eyes, bang, I felt my feet hit something on the other side. Like I felt my feet impact something, and I can only imagine it was like a giant cat flap of a wall on the other side. And as I hit this flap, I go flying out into a hospital bed, and I'm there, and I'm just watching. And again, I'm just watching from above. And I'm in this hospital bed, and I'm just laying there, but I'm watching from above. And there's surgeons, nurses, etc., and they're all operating on me. I'm watching this from above. There's no pain here. I'm just watching it, and it's just peaceful. And they're just talking in this unknown language. And again, it could have gone on for days. It could have gone on for weeks. It could have gone on for years. I don't know how long it went on for. And I'm just watching. And as they sort of finished up, they all just dissipated. They just left. And as they left, I get sucked into my own mind like a Hoover. It sucked me back into my own mind. And as I'm laying there, I open my eyes, and there's just a curtain in front of me, and I'm laying in this hospital bed, and I'm watching. And then suddenly these curtains open, and as they open, this supernatural bright white light comes through with such intensity. I'm closing my eyes, and I'm closing my eyes, and then suddenly I open my eyes, and it was okay to open it. But as I opened my eyes, I saw every single face in front of me, as far as the eye could see. Every single face that I've ever met. It could be someone that I've met in the street. It could be someone that I used to work with, someone that I used to go to school with. Every single face, everywhere I looked, there was faces. But right at the end of my hospital bed, it was my mum, my dad, my grandparents, my brothers, my sister. And they're all just stood there. But then as I looked, I'm observing everywhere, I'm looking. And the main thing is, every single face, they were crying. Everywhere I looked, these faces were just crying their eyes out. So again, my parents at the end of the bed, I'm waving, I'm screaming, I'm shouting. Nothing's coming out. I'm trying to wave my hands. Nothing. And again, this goes on for hours. And then suddenly,
yeah,
suddenly I lay back. I almost give up. And as I lay back, I just closed my eyes. I started to cry. And then next thing you know, I just felt this thing like a Hoover suck out of my mind, and it sucked. It just went. But as it went, it took all of the white light with it. And then all I hear is this noise in the distance, beep, 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 and it starts getting louder and faster. And I'm thinking it's an alarm clock. And I started to become, I went from cold to warm. I started to warm up. And this beep, beep, beep gets louder and louder and louder to the point where I open my eyes, and this is the life support machine next to my head. And as I look down, I'm in the intensive care unit on my own. I have wires, needles, pins penetrating my body, tracheostomy in my throat. And I realised that I was back on Earth. And I realised everything that I'd seen. And I just remembered every single thing that had happened that night prior to the attack.
I'm just chills all over, because this is so, I've never heard anything like this. I've heard a lot of stories, but this is so vivid. And the fact that the one that really moved me is you see these, because you and I talked before the interview, and this, you're looking out and you see faces. You can't even see where it ends. There's no end. You don't even, all you see is these people's faces, and they're looking at you and they're crying. And this must have been such a impactful, surreal experience. And as I'm talking to you, I'm wondering, like, if this is like the world's cry, like in this moment, in this journey you're going through, it's like the world crying out, like every human, every face, every soul is just crying out for help. And you, it's almost like you through your experience, you literally witnessed this.
Yeah, no, I honestly believe that, and not coming from say, an ego point. I honestly believe now that I've done the research into it and just gone over things in my own mind, I've been grown up like so confused, like what is the purpose of my life? And then seeing that and now going over it, say almost 10 years later, say 9 years later, going over it and just making sense of it all and bringing it all together, I honestly believe that I witnessed myself through the eyes of my creator. And the only reason that I was sent back was to finish the job that I'd been sent here to do. And that's why
Say
everyone was
that one more
crying.
time, Ryan. Say that one more time because I want to hear it and I want to make sure everyone hears that. Say that again,
Yeah,
please.
of course. So yeah, so growing up as a child, very confused of what I wanted to do with my life, what I wanted to do for work, etc. Never knew my purpose of life. What is my purpose? And then that experience, pain presents purpose. That pain, I honestly believe that I viewed myself through the eyes of my creator and I was sent back to this earth to finish the job that I was sent here to do.
That's powerful. But you also, after going through all this, you also battled with depression after this.
Mm.
And it might be common. You probably have done the research. So I want, this is a journey that's 9 years, 10 years, and it still continues. And I can only imagine that it's a part of you. It's embodies who you are and who you're becoming in this life, and to have this incredible perspective, because what's coming to me is like, not everybody's going to get this, right? You went through this horrible experience, but now you have this incredible gift, and not everybody's going to get this. So I think the message here, maybe we can extract, as we got about maybe 5 or 10 minutes left, is to somebody who's in that pain, but they don't know what their purpose is. They're going through, they didn't have the experience that you had, being moments away, literally moments away from never existing in human form again. Like, that's how intense this was. Your parents faced with this decision, no brain activity. Do we pull the plug? Do we not? But something deeper new. And then obviously the story progressed and you just shared it. But I'm so moved by it. And maybe you just want to reflect on what I'm saying here about the people that are going to listen to this and are hearing your story. Like, what would you share with them that they could extract that could help them in their journey?
Yeah, so I could share a few things. So maybe you saw my intro video where I said that whilst I was in a coma, I wasn't conscious whether to decide whether to switch my life support machine off or not. And it was totally in control of somebody else. But I've noticed that many people who are alive and well have unconsciously pulled the plug on their own. And the great Benjamin Franklin said that most people die at 25 but aren't buried until 75. And I personally don't want to perish filled with potential, because death is not the greatest loss in life. The greatest loss is what dies inside us while we live.
I think that is a beautiful distillation of your message, Ryan. I really do, because you physically went through this, but how many people live life and something inside of them dies, and then 5 years go by, 10 years go by, 20 years go by, and they're sitting there. And we want this message to reach you, that it's time to wake up. It's time to, you may not have gone through what Ryan has gone through, but there's a message inside of you. There's a gift, and that is a beautiful reflection. And Mandy, let me just grab some shares here. Let's do that here. Mandy said most people die at 25, not buried till 75. Is it time to wake up? Maybe you're not dead. You're just asleep. Maybe you are in a life coma and you're not moving forward. You feel stuck. This is why these interviews are so important. It's so important to share this with people. I've this morning I just did a series, Meet Me in the Morning, 30 days, and people need this information. They need to hear Ryan's story, and you need to create your story. That's why Flashpoint is about the turnaround story that leads to your Flashpoint moment. When the moment when it makes sense. That's what we want to create here. Let me grab some of these other shares. It doesn't matter if everyone gets it. The life lesson here is to never quit, no matter how impossible the situation appears. Keep faith and hope. And your story, Ryan, like you said, so well, it's a tough one to swallow, but I'm going to share it anyway again to revisit it. And you said your parents decided to stay with it. But how many others, when they heard there's no brain activity, they just completely said it's over, and they pulled the plug, and there's people that have perished that would have been alive. And I think somebody was just sharing here. Let me see if I can grab this. There was a woman that was in a coma for 30 years. Let me see if I saw this in one of the shares. If I could, yeah, here it is right here. This is from Mandy. I watched a documentary recently under the same advice. The lady was in a coma for 30 years and she suddenly woke up.
Wow. Imagine how much the world would have changed in 30 years. Wow.
That's like going through a time machine, right? A time machine.
Literally.
Go with your gut. Just amazing. I'm so grateful for my friend and you, my friend, the courage of your parents. Just amazing. What a blessing your story is to the world. And I think this is true. No mother will ever give up on her child.
No,
but your
never.
dad was a major catalyst here too. You know, your father, to be able to step in and say no and do the opposite of what the professionals were suggesting he do. Mandy, I know it's a shivering. It gives you chills when you hear the story. Such a life lesson for us. The impact stuns me. Don't die with your purpose still inside. Please wake up. Wake up. And Conchetta, I'm so glad you're here. Conchetta's from the UK as well. It's sweet irony that I'm in the States and we have two beautiful ladies that have roots, one that's in the UK and one that's from Britain originally. So Mandy, how great is that?
So I like what Mandy just said about what I said about don't die with your purpose still inside you. Because if you think about it, I'm sure some of you maybe heard this before. The graveyard is one of the wealthiest places on this earth. Just imagine all of those undiscovered and unused talents, skills, and abilities that cease to exist. All of those would haves, could haves, and should haves that the world never had exposure to. Don't perish. Filled with potential, whatever you do not go to the graveyard with your greatness still inside of you.
Yes, and I actually did a video. People thought I was crazy, Ryan. I did a video from the cemetery.
Yeah,
I literally went to the cemetery and I did a live video there, and with that exact message. And you may say that's not for me, like this isn't for me, but there is something that is for you. You see, there is something that is for you, and your decision, and all there is a decision today to say, I'm going to pursue it. I'm going to discover. Even if I don't know what it is today, even if I don't know what it is next week, even if I don't know what it is 6 months from now or a year from now, I am going to stay in active discovery until I figure it out, because it's in you.
Because we may not know what our purpose is straight away right now. And that's fine. If you don't know what your purpose is right now, that's okay. But it doesn't mean that it's okay to not be in constant search and pursuit for your purpose.
Absolutely agree with you. Mandy says, I'm in Yorkshire, Harrogate.
Yeah, that's up north, cold up there.
Okay, it's up north, cold up there. Okay. Let's see. Live your magic now. The world needs you. Ryan, this has been a great visit with you. I'd love to give you a couple minutes just to help us round things out. And I believe we could do this again, because there's so much to your story that I'm sure we can schedule a future time where I have you on the actual Flashpoint Friday at some point in the future. Would be great, because then we can dig into your story again, because it's just so rich and your journey's unfolding. And I'm fortunate and blessed that Michelle connected us, which is amazing. Shout out to Michelle. Send Michelle some love, everyone, for making this happen. And connect with Ryan on Instagram. And Ryan, just want to, whatever you want to share here to help us round it out, I would love to hear it.
So there's so many things that I could share, but the main few things that I want to share is adversity can quite often turn out to be a blessing in disguise. And from my own experience, I've found that adversity is the prerequisite to growth, success, and true happiness. I believe hidden at the very core of adversity is the key to progression and lifelong happiness. It isn't going to be easy to find this key, but once you have obtained it, it will unlock the barrier to your next level of life. So adversity can be a gift if we choose to let it be. And just know that the pain of fear and failure is temporary. The pain of regret lasts a lifetime. So don't ever not go after what you truly want in life.
Absolutely beautiful, and we're gonna have you back again as your book unfolds. Ryan and I are trying to figure out ways to work together more, and maybe more on that. And Conchetta, I want to encourage you. And my message, and Conchetta, much love to you. I miss you. We are building a community. We are building. We're looking at different options where there's public. We're going to have a private membership, because what I know, if you want to discover your purpose, get around people who are discovering their purpose and have discovered their purpose. That's the shortest path to success right there. Or I say success, the word success is overused, but your purpose, living with purpose, creating fulfillment, because success is kind of, it is what it is. But that's what we want, and we're going to be building that. So Ryan, I'm glad you were here with me today, my friend. What a blessing. What a blessing you are. God has a purpose. I'm using God. I know some people say universe, but talk to anybody that has gone through something that Ryan has gone through, and I think they will agree that there is something, whether you want to call it, I call it God, you can call it what you want. There is a force, a divine, whatever you want to call it, that has purpose weaving through all of it. And you had the rare gift of being able to go through and see it, to visually experience something that very few people on this planet will experience. And you, my friend, have a purpose, and you have a story to tell the world, and the world needs to hear it. So I want to encourage everyone to share this video with someone, to a page. Share it. Let somebody hear this incredible blessing that Ryan is.
Austin, thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for listening to me as well. I really appreciate it.
All right, everyone, we're going to send you on our way. Join me tomorrow for Flashpoint Live. That's the TV show. And I'm going to be talking about my corporate journey. So that's why Ryan and I have something similar. 2 years ago, almost to the day, I resigned from my 19-year corporate job. I was making a good six-figure income. I had plenty of runway ahead of me. I had promotions offered to me, but I made a decision to follow my purpose. And that's why this conversation has happened. And that's why, because if Ryan didn't do what he did and I didn't do what I did, this conversation would never happen. That's how valuable this space is. And that's how valuable this interview is. So I'm going to be sharing my story tomorrow. That's at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard. Look for that post coming out today. Other than that, I'm going to leave you with this, which we leave our seminars: get free, stay present, and move forward. Glad you were here. Have a great day, everyone.